Welcome back to 360 Sports. Today we have our college football show. I'm Harlan, Ryan, Izzy, Gemma. So let's get into it. We have to start today by talking about the obvious national championship we saw a week ago. Ohio State beat Notre Dame 34-23 to give the Big Ten back-to-back national championships. What do you guys think about the game? What do you think about the results?
As much as I can't stand Will Howard, I have to give him credit. He played a good game. He stepped up when he needed to step up. And, I mean, I got to give Ohio State credit, even though it really pains me to do that.
I still won't give them credit. I mean, they did go through the worst, road to the national championship. But, as most fans will say, it's it doesn't mean anything if you can't beat Michigan, and they haven't done it the last 4 years. So I think it's good for Big Ten schools because a lot more recruits are going to want to come and play for these Big Ten schools, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. But again, for Ohio State, the fan base, some of them are unsettled just because they didn't beat Michigan this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think after losing to Michigan, I feel like that really started a fire in them. And after that, if you played them, I'm sorry. Because they just crushed every team they played. That loss really it really meant something to them. Notre Dame, they came out they came out on that opening drive and put 7 points up, and you thought, oh my God, well maybe this won't be that bad. And then Ohio State literally right after that, just scored 31 points
10
unanswered.
minutes for an opening drive. And everyone was like, oh, I did not think you guys would come out like that. And I thought they would keep that momentum, and they just did it. I love Notre Dame's head coach, Marcus Freeman. He deserves a trophy, but I think they were just outplayed and outmatched.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how I think everyone thinks the SEC is this huge, the best conference in college football.
They're not that good.
And back-to-back championships for Big Ten, get more recruits, and just the scores just show that Big Ten is constantly above the SEC.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Agreed. Yes.
And so this was the first year with the 12-team playoffs. The seeding of the teams was a little controversial because every team who had a bye, they lost their next game. Do you think the seedings need to change? Do you like the 12-team format?
I think it needs to change. I don't think the conference championship should have a first-round bye. I mean, Arizona State did play really well against Texas. They kind of showed that they kind of deserved to be there, but I don't think Boise State deserved to get that first-round bye. Neither did Georgia at all.
I totally agree because it's you got to go with what the NFL has with the reseeding. So you say they do the 12-team again next year, but instead of the 4 conference championships or the champions,
top four teams.
Yes,
I agree.
And then seed based on that, and then after the first round or I guess you could call it the wild card round, you reseed, and it's the lowest goes to play the highest, and so on and so forth. I think they should adopt the NFL playoff scheduling.
Yeah, I think the teams that win their conference, though, they definitely should get guaranteed bid into playoffs, but they shouldn't be.
I agree.
They shouldn't get. They shouldn't
you proved yourself. You can make it, but not top
they don't deserve it as much as some teams do.
Look at SMU or Clemson won the ACC, and they were 12, and then
barely won the ACC.
Barely. They should have lost and shouldn't have even been in it, but. That's a discussion for another day.
As much as I agree that they shouldn't get it, it kind of worked in Penn State's favor this year because I went to the Big Ten championship, that devastating interception.
Oh my gosh, I was there too.
So was I.
But I was happy 24 hours later.
So it was so sad in the moment, but then you're like, well, then Oregon had to play Ohio State.
They lost. We would have had to play Ohio State. We probably would have lost in that game.
And then if we won, we would have to play Texas. If it worked out the same way.
I think Penn State would have beat Texas, but.
Yeah,
I think so too.
I was really up. I was kind of rooting for Ohio State after we lost against Notre Dame because I was like, if Texas wins, I'm going to be really upset because we can beat Texas so easily.
Texas is.
I think they're such a beautiful team.
They're super overrated in my opinion.
It's Quinn Ewers, and
Quinn Ewers is overrated.
Good.
Yeah. Exactly,
and
he's not good.
Draft, I'm just
just for him to go in the seventh round.
Ever since that injury, he has not played the same at all. And it's showed.
I totally agree.
So now we're going to go over to our board section. So now that college football is over, let's do a way too early look into next season. I want each of you to go to the board, give us a prediction of who you think the national championship of next year will be, what team, and who's going to take home the Heisman Trophy. So let's go Gemma, Ryan, Izzy, and then myself.
Okay. I'm a little bit biased in this situation, but I have a lot of faith this year.
Okay. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Okay. So my prediction for the national championship, of course, Penn State. I say this every year, actually. But this year, I really believe it. Also, it's going to be my senior year, so I would like to walk away with a national championship. But after the Coach Knowles hire, oh, my God, I have so much more faith in this team than I ever did in my life. Drew Aller's coming back. A lot of people are like, well, Drew Aller's going to suck. Do we not see what Joe Burrow did in his last year? Won a Heisman and won national championship. So I like where the growth of Drew Aller's going. I think this year was really nice to see that, okay, wow, he can really, like against USC, even though he threw technically two interceptions, he played a great game. He really stepped up. I'm not going to talk about the Notre Dame game. That was probably the worst game I've ever seen him play, and I was really disappointed in him. But Katron Allen, Nick Singleton back, DDS back. We have all these key players that are back. Even though Tyler Warren's gone, I love Luke Reynolds, and I love Khalil Dinkins. So I'll be back in Miami this year, so let me just book my tickets now. So for my Heisman, I love Arch Manning. I didn't want to say Jeremiah Smith. I feel like, I don't know. I love Arch Manning so much. I think he should have took over the starting position over Quinn Ewers. He can run amazing. He also has probably one of the best NFL quarterbacks in history as his uncles that can really guide him. And when Quinn Ewers was hurt, he really showed that he can step to the plate. I think he threw over 300 yards against Mississippi State. He played really good in the games that he needed to take over. And he's only a freshman. I mean, he's a sophomore now, but I think he's going to be really good. Texas does have a really difficult schedule, but they should be consistently in the top 5 next year in the polls. So I'm really excited to see Archie Manning play next year.
Arch Manning is going to be a dog
he
for
has something
Texas
to prove.
next year.
Quinn Ewers, I feel like people are like you said, take him out, and then now it's like, oh, I should have.
So is he going to be more like Peyton or Eli?
I don't even know.
Or is he just better than both?
He could be better than both.
He could be.
I just love him so much.
I had Penn State as my first pick for the national championship too. I think it's a little bit of bias and a little bit of hopefulness and a little bit of actual.
I actually believe it this year. But I actually believe it this year.
After that DC hire, I'm full.
We have such a manageable schedule too next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna get out here real quick, and I'm gonna go with another Big Ten team. It's SIG season. It's Coach Cignetti season. It's Indiana. Indiana, I promise you, they're going to make a run this year. They won 11-2 this year. They only lost to Ohio State and Notre Dame. And personally, I go back to the reference of the 2025 Dodgers winning 150 games and losing to the Reds on the power of friendship. So I think that Indiana's got the grit. I think Coach Cignetti is going to turn this program around very, very fast. He showed that this year. Granted, they had a very, very favorable schedule, but I do think Indiana's going to get some key transfers in the transfer portal. They're going to get some key recruits now that Indiana is back on the map. And I do think that Indiana is going to make a very, very solid run this year in the college football playoffs. And then my Heisman, Dylan Raiola, I think, is going to win the Heisman. I mean, look at him. He's basically I think that is a picture of Patrick Mahomes just in Nebraska gear. But Dylan Raiola he had some freshman mistakes this year. Obviously, we saw it with Drew Aller and a lot of these other quarterbacks when they first started. But I do believe that Matt Rule is, again, turning around this Nebraska program. They didn't have a good record this year, but then again, I do believe that Dylan Raiola is going to carry this team and win the Heisman this year.
Do you think both those teams are going to beat Penn State?
They could. They totally could.
I was very surprised when those pictures popped up.
I'm telling you, it's not Cignetti time. I'm telling you right now, it's not.
It's SIG season. What do you mean?
I don't like Patrick Mahomes, so
Same.
I don't like this kid.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I love Matt Rule.
Guilty by association.
I'm not a fan of Big Ten teams. Come on, stick with your school.
Indiana, really?
That's crazy.
It's SIG season.
That's
It's SIG
crazy.
season.
That's crazy.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the wild card here. I'm gonna say Clemson.
I agree.
They
with
had a
this.
pretty good season this year. They won the ACC title. It was a very close game, and they almost didn't win it, obviously. And then they got knocked out right in the beginning of the playoffs. But they have their star quarterback coming back, Cade Klubnik, and their coach is experienced. Dabo Sweeney's super experienced. They just landed Penn State's old defensive coordinator, Tom Allen. I really think their defense is going to get stronger. I think that they could come into this playoff next year, and I think they can make a run and possibly even win, maybe. I don't know. I could see them doing good here. And then for my Heisman, I had to go with Jeremiah Smith. When a freshman is this good, like it's scary. So like he was, he really helped Ohio State. Like he was a key player to win this national championship and to get them to the national championship. He had a touchdown in the national championship, and then he also had 15 touchdowns just this season. Super good catches. Like he had a lot of good plays. He's like a deep threat and also a short threat. Like he can get those deep balls, but he can also like be a good like short receiver and like rush that ball and catch it with one arm. Like I really think he's scary. Like I would not want to go against him if I was like a defensive man. Like no. So I really think he could win this next year.
Tom Allen being the deciding factor for
It's not,
Clemson.
Cade Klubnik has like really improved this
Klubnik
year.
is good.
Yeah.
Also, Clemson was getting blown out at first in Texas, and they did show up towards
They
the end of
did.
that game.
I would love to see Clemson hold another trophy. Like that would like just
They
make
have,
my heart
they have
happy.
such an experienced coach. Like, he's won the
Exactly.
national
That's the whole
championship before.
thing.
He knows how to get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, Dabo's really, really good. I love him.
Okay, so Gemma, this is kind of similar to yours, just the other way. So the 2026 national championships are your Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em. So I think this is Quinn Ewers' year. Nope, he's out. Arch Manning's year puts that last name to good use. He has 4 5-star recruits. He has his 4-star tight end coming back, his 5-star running back. These offensive weapons could win a national championship alone. He has wheels on him. He can run. He's like a little Lamar Jackson. Their O-line is even going to be better than this year. Their D-line has some depth to it, and they have an experienced coach. I think this is really going to be the year for Texas. They have a hard schedule, but they have proven themselves on the road, and a lot of their tougher opponents are coming to Texas. So a home field advantage never hurts. So I think we're going to see them in the national championships and maybe even win it. So then my Heisman Trophy is ours truly, Drew Aller. Yes,
I love Drew.
number 15, number 1 in our hearts.
Bo's
So-
better.
I think him choosing to stay for his senior season was the best decision he could make. Prospects already have him as a top pick for the 2026 draft. I know we don't have Tyler Warren, but we have our running backs coming back. We're going to get some wide receivers from this class pool. We have a tight end actually decommitted from Michigan to Penn State, so maybe he'll be his own Tyler Warren. And I think this was the year for Drew. I think he's a great QB if he just fixes his mistakes, and that comes with just learning again and again. And I think they'll have more faith in him this year that they took him all the way to the semifinals. So I can't wait to see what Drew does, and hopefully he'll be our Heisman Trophy.
I love Drew so
I mean,
much.
that would be cool, but
Are you a hater of Drew?
Yeah, what?
That's crazy.
I like
You're a hater of Drew.
Bo. I like Bo.
I love Bo and I miss Bo, but we got to move on
Yeah,
from
we
Bo.
don't have them.
We got to move on.
It's
So
okay.
we got to move on.
I
'cause
need Bo.
I know. I need
It's
Bo
like
too.
everybody was saying, like, oh my God, could Drew Lar like go into this draft? Like, oh my God, it was so much hype.
If
And then
he
and
had
then
gone into the draft, he
I
would have been.
knew
it
he
was
would
like-
never do that to me. I knew he would
Right.
never leave us high and dry
right.
with Grunk. I knew he would never do that
He
to
would have
me.
been a 4th-round pick.
At the SMU game when Grunk came in for his first ever
Oh, they threw an
snap.
interception. I go, oh
It
God,
wasn't his
here we
fault.
go.
It hit the receiver's hands. It was
Are
the
you a Drew
receiver's fault.
hater and a Grunk
No,
supporter?
Grunk's gonna be good. He's a 5-star. What do you want me to do?
We wish Bo all the well at
Yeah.
Mizzou.
At
Miss-
SEC, I guess.
But I would love to see Texas Penn State in the national championship. That would be a good game.
Yeah,
Hey,
no,
I
horns
like
down.
Texas. I don't hate them.
I like Arch.
Yeah,
Really
that's about it.
Archer's Drew is like gonna be
Oh my
amazing
God,
to
that would
see.
be
The edits.
cinema.
The
Yeah,
edits would go
right.
crazy.
Edits would go crazy.
Oh my god.
Okay, let's move on to our next segment. As much as I can talk about Drew for all day, let's grade this season. So obviously every team can't win the national championship. So I want you to give me a letter grade for each of these teams. So first is obviously Penn State. They ended the season 13-3, and we lost to the semis in Notre Dame. So what grade would you give us? Any critiques? Let's see it.
I would give maybe an A minus, B plus, just because can you let me talk? And then you can make your facial expressions over there. This was probably the most exciting season I've seen since the 2017 season. I don't think I've been able to watch so many games back that like are so exciting to me since the 2017 or 2016 season. I can watch every single game back. Every single game almost gave me a heart attack. Every single game took 10 years off my life, but it was so memorable and I loved it so much. I think this season, I really thought we were going to win the national championship. It just felt so different. Like this team felt so different. In past years, we would have lost against Minnesota, which we did. We would have lost against that team. I just think that this team showed so much resilience and so much grit, and we really played all 4 quarters through and through. And I'm really proud of this team. It's gonna get me emotional. I love this team so much.
I gave him a flat A, just a straight A.
Okay.
Drew Aller played his best season
I agree.
of his career.
I agree.
Granted, like last year wasn't the best.
He was
for
too
him.
afraid to take big shots.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He got confidence.
Didn't
this
trust
year.
his
Exactly.
receivers.
Exactly.
He trusted his offensive coordinator. He trusted his receivers. He trusted Tyler Warren, obviously. He trusted his offense. Defense played very, very well.
I agree.
For the entire year. Best third quarter team, I think, in yards and points differential ever. Not ever, but
we're up there.
We are up there. And I think Drew Aller is going to have a great senior year, and I think they're going to bounce back and make it far again in the college football playoffs. So I have them at an A, and then they can, giving them a little bit more room to improve. An A+ would obviously be a national championship.
I was not expecting this from Drew Aller hater.
I thought I was going to get a B from him.
I am not a Drew Aller hater.
Penn State, they won. The whole Penn State thing is they win the games they're supposed to, but they don't really do much after that. So they really need to prove something else to me to get anything above an A-. That's just an A- to me. Should have beat Notre Dame. Cannot play like we did.
I still think we should have won that game.
I just can remember, I'm sitting, my dog's right next to me. He throws that interception, I fall to my knees and I just start crying.
40 seconds left.
So my mom was
I
what
was
is
at
happening?
the game. So I was at the game. It was the worst experience of my life. I actually started crying, and Notre Dame was making fun of me. Notre Dame was making fun of me. I have so much trauma from that.
Emotions are okay. But the thing about the season, did not beat any top 5 wins. We did not have any top 5 ranked wins. We got to have those. We have to have those if we want to be in the national championship contender. That's my thing about them. But we did produce really good NFL talent. Hopefully, Abdul Carter, he's in a lot of things to be the number 1 pick. I don't think he will be, but he's
at least
and he
top
wasn't
3 or
even going to
5.
be. The thing about
Yes,
Abdul Carter
absolutely.
is before the season, he wasn't even supposed to be in the first round, and then they switched him to edge rusher and. We produced that. We produced Tyler Warren. He's going to be a top 10 pick. So there's going to be a lot of Penn State talent from this season that we'll see in the NFL. And I think that also says a lot about the season, but it also says a lot about how we came up short. But I think next year, this energy that they have, I think it's not over yet.
From how many people we have coming back.
Exactly.
We took a page out of Michigan and Ohio State's book.
Right.
Bringing people back, they know that this is unfinished business, and they know they're going to be coming in.
Exactly. And with this new defensive coordinator, feeling confident, so that's why they get an A- now. Room for improvement, but
I think if we can beat Ohio State, I think it'll prove to all the haters.
yeah, at home,
plant
the flag.
That's all I want. That's
Illegal.
all I want. Plant the flag. That's all I want. That's all
Get
I
a
want
felony
is to beat Ohio
for planting a
State.
flag.
Okay, let's move on to our next team, Florida. So they finished 8-5 overall and destroyed Tulane in their bowl game. So what's their grade?
I'm going to give them I don't know, a B-, I
guess.
guess, just because I think they started out the season a little bit slow, but then they really had some good upsets at home. I think they should have beat Tennessee. They really lost in overtime because they missed the field goal. They beat Ole Miss, which in some people's minds, that was their pick to win the national championship or make it far in the playoffs because I think Jackson Dart is really good. They beat some really good teams. They ended LSU season. So I think it's a team that I think they're going to be maybe better next year, but I think it's just a team that's growing and developing. But I thought they had a really good, strong end to the season.
Yeah, they get a B- from me as well. I mean, like you said, they started off the season slow, losses to Georgia, Tennessee, Texas A&M. But then Graham Mertz got injured, and I'm being a little lenient with the grade here because of Graham Mertz's injury. The backup quarterbacks were playing a majority of the season, Lagway and Warner. And Lagway played really, really well. He helped them upset
Who's
Ole
a
Miss.
Heisman contender next year. Should
Yeah,
be.
absolutely.
Yes.
I think Florida has a lot of room to grow. I know the fans do not like the head coach, but I think Florida has a lot of room for improvement, and I do think that they can make a name for themselves next year.
Yeah, I mean, all their losses besides Texas Tech, they were all top 10 teams. So that's it's not like they had any big upsets. It's again, they won the games they're supposed to win. But they knocked out these teams that were really good. That's the thing about them is they didn't start off so strong, but then at the end of the season, they just like ruin. It's like their season was over, so they're like, why don't we just ruin these other people's seasons? So
They ended 2 teams.
like they
in the
ended
playoffs.
2 teams.
Exactly.
Ole
Yes.
Miss would have been in the playoffs,
Yes,
but
they
then
Yes.
Florida's
Love
like,
them.
no, not today.
Yeah.
All
Knock
the
them out.
hypothetical SEC wins.
Like all literally 2000 for the hypothetical SEC wins, but
Probably
you
more
know.
than that now.
But I think this Lagway guy, he was a freshman this year, right?
Yes.
So I think we'll see a lot from him. So I think this was kind of like it was a disappointing season. Some fans may say, but then it's also kind of like a season where it's like
There's bright
there's like
stars.
hope.
It
there's
did
like
turn around.
Yeah, it turned
Yes.
around, and
It
like
reminds
maybe
me
they
of
could
like
carry that.
2021 Penn State.
Yeah,
That's what it
absolutely.
reminds me
Yeah.
of. Like they lost to Illinois at home. I was at that game. It
Hey,
sucked.
we should have. We were ranked number 4 against. I can't talk about that game. It makes me really upset talking about that game.
I give Florida a B. Oh, just because I'm not a fan of these colors together.
You're not a fan of the
No.
colors?
yeah.
I
Honestly,
think they work.
orange and I just don't like orange. Period.
No.
So
I like the blue.
the blue's good.
The
but-
blue's nice.
Yeah.
So next to Michigan, they finished 8-5 overall, beat Alabama in the bowl game, and then beat Ohio State per usual. This is Penn State owes them because that's the reason we got in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
Is because Ohio State lost, and I'm here for it. I think Michigan. I gave Michigan a B+ because everyone thought they would have a rebuilding year because of JJ McCarthy leaving and Harbaugh leaving. But they have an average regular season. They beat their. I feel like admissions line if they beat Ohio State and then end up with a
That's a
good
great season for them.
Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Exactly, and they did that. And I think it's such a good football program. Like the fundamentals are always going to be there. That doesn't matter who like your quarterback is or who the head coach is. It's always going to be a good football program.
Yeah. I gave them a B just because, I mean, they had some quarterback issues in the beginning of the season. They didn't know who was going to start. They were going back and forth between quarterbacks. But they lost some games that, like, maybe they shouldn't have lost. But they also had a good end of the season, kind of like Florida. You beat Ohio State in the shoe. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And they picked off Jalen Milroe like 3 or 4 times in the bowl game. And people were saying that Bama should have been in the playoffs. So that was a really nice
I was so
end
happy
of
when they
discussion
lost.
for that argument. But I mean, I think I really like Sharon Moore. I think he is a really good coach and, you know, wants a lot out from his players. And I think he's a good coach who genuinely cares about his players. And Michigan did have some rebuilding that they still need to work on because obviously they are coming off winning the national championship last year. But I think it's looking good for Michigan. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely on the up, but I have them as a C for this season.
Tough
So, I this is me being lenient on their season because I did not expect them to do very good. I expected them to fall off a cliff, and they did basically halfway through the season. I mean, they did beat USC,
Yes.
but bad loss. I believe they lost to Minnesota, and they lost to Illinois.
They got blown out by Oregon.
They got blown up by Oregon. They lost to Indiana.
They lost to
And then-
Illinois, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Wait, they might have lost. I'm sorry, they might have
And
lost. to
then,
Minnesota.
but they did win the game. They won the game that matters, I guess, to Michigan
To a
fans.
team that has won the national championship now.
Yeah.
So that looks
And
great.
I said they're coming off a national championship. They're coming off all the Connor Stallion scandal, and they were looked down on. They beat USC, Ohio State, and Alabama. But again, I think Michigan fans expected more, especially just coming off that national championship win. And they have a couple guys probably going in the first round: Mason Graham, defensive line, Will Johnson, that corner. And I think they need to bring in these recruits and make Michigan great again, basically.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think they did lose to Minnesota. I'm sorry, I can't add. But it was a rebuilding year for them. There was high hopes. Like I gave them a B but you have a new coach. It was a complete like washout of all their like people from last year. I think they like went from like they had 4 quarterbacks this year. They kept like changing them. The quarterback situation was just
And when that's
like not that good.
position is all over the place, it's very hard to
Right.
make a certain.
I agree.
Right.
Yes.
And also to give them credit, they had a tough schedule. I mean, they beat Ohio State, but then they lost to Indiana, which is your national champion. But they
Big
also
season.
lost to Texas, another national championship, and Oregon and Illinois. So that's like those are all ranked teams. Like that's a hard schedule for a rebuilding team, a new coach, a new environment.
Yeah.
So it's a rebuilding year. I think they'll be
They could
back.
have done a lot worse this
Right.
season.
Yeah, I think they'll be back. Like
I think people have high
they're getting
hopes
a lot of
Michigan
good
to
recruits.
Michigan.
Yes.
So anything less than like making the playoffs is like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah. But they did good. Like they did average.
Mhm.
So not all these prospects. Let's talk about the NFL draft. So we've already had a bunch of great and interesting prospects declare for the draft. So where the Tennessee Titans have the #1 overall pick. What are you guys excited about going into this NFL draft? Is there any you worried about? Any predictions when it comes to specific picks?
I mean, I've been seeing that Jackson Dart's going to the Giants, and I'm loving that. I'm a big fan of Jackson Dart also, but I'm just really excited. I'm excited to see where Abdul Carter goes, where he goes in that draft. I'm excited to see where Tyler Warren goes. I think it's going to be a really interesting draft. I feel like no one knows, where Shedeur Sanders going, because he thinks he's going to New York. People are saying he's going to Las Vegas.
The
Where's he
early
going?
picks is like crazy.
Where's he going?
his confidence is my favorite. Like when he wore the Giants on his shoes,
Cleat?
I'm like, what is going on? Like you're not even
Yes.
like what is that?
Or like
they're not
Abdul
even-
Carter posts
right.
a poll, like a
Right.
timer on a story, until #1 draft
Right.
pick. Like,
But then he's like
okay.
posting how he wants to be on the Eagles. I'm like, they won't
They're
not gonna be
you're
trying
not
to
gonna
go
like
all the way
that.
back there.
Exactly,
Like I don't think you
But
like
you mentioned Tyler Warren, and I'm a Niners fan, and like,
oh,
so I
you're
like am
nice.
hoping like he goes down to the second
I
or
can
third
see
round
it.
draft
Yeah.
pick. The Niners pick him up. He sits a little behind Kittle. Kittle retires, and he becomes one of the best.
Kittle
tight
is
ends.
not
In the
retired.
next 2 to 3 years.
No,
maybe,
he is not.
Maybe.
I would be happy to have Tyler Warren on the Eagles. Dallas Goedert, he's getting old, he's getting injured. Like I would be so happy. I would be
I
like
could see him going to one
Saquon
of these
Barkley
top
and Tyler
teams.
Warren. Like I would be the most
and
annoying
Jahan
person.
Dotson.
Yes, I would.
You guys
I
are
would be
all
the most
delusional.
annoying
You guys are
person
all
ever.
delusional Eagles fans. Well, Giants fans. Sorry.
I'm not a Giants fan.
Regardless,
I'm not a Giants fan.
I have Abdul Carter going to the Browns at 2,
That's
pairing
what I
him
have
up with
too,
Myles
yeah.
Garrett,
That's
Okay,
perfect.
I can
making
see
that
that. I can
huge
see
edge
that.
rush, getting pressure on the ball. But again, the Browns need offense. They
Yeah.
don't. Deshaun Watson just
They
re-ruptured
need
his
a
Achilles.
quarterback.
Exactly.
You think they're going
Jameis
to Abdul before they
Winston,
go
he's praying
quarterback?
for
Yes.
no 6 picks still. So
and then I have Shedeur going to the Giants.
No, I want Jackson. I'd rather have Jackson.
Jackson Dart's going to the Steelers at 21. I'm sorry.
I have
I didn't
I
see
have
Jackson
Shedeur going to
being
the
that
Giants
high.
too.
I hear he's going really high
And
now.
then
what people are
Tyler
saying.
Warren's going 14 to the Colts.
And then
Okay.
Cam Ward, I have him as the
Ward.
first pick. I have
Yes.
him going to
He's
Titans.
easily the best.
Cam Ward.
Oh yes.
He's easily the best quarterback in the draft. Shedeur, I don't think is that good, and then
No.
every other quarterback after him is
This is
just
not a
trash.
QB heavy
honestly,
draft.
No,
It's not.
Not
Wait,
at all.
Don't the Titans have Drake May?
No,
No,
the
that's
Patriots have Drake
Patriots.
Patriots
May.
have
Yeah.
Drake May. Okay, sorry.
The
Titans have
Will
Will
Levis. Penn State alum, by the way.
Yeah, used to love him. at
So
Penn
your
State.
Will Levis is done. Like in your book, like he's done like trading.
where do
He
you-
was just like memes this year. That's all he
He
was good
was.
for. Honestly,
Where
I
do you
don't
guys
know.
think Genty's going?
I have him like third pick. I don't know.
Third?
I don't know. I
That
don't know.
high?
I just see him in a Cowboys uniform. In my
Yeah.
mind,
I
I see him
have
in a
him,
Cowboys
I have him
uniform.
going 12, but I don't think his play is going to translate.
I've been hearing that Will Howard's going to the Steelers because
No.
everyone's like, Will Howard's so good.
He's
I don't
not.
think
What
Will
season
Howard's
were
that
you
good.
watching?
Yeah.
I was watching Ohio State season. He acted like he was Tom Brady in the
Right,
national championship.
right.
One good game he's
He
played.
makes me mad. Like
I
you won that
can't
championship,
stand
it
him.
wasn't because of you.
I
your
can't
whole
stand
team.
Will Howard when he was like, Penn State didn't recruit me.
Oh
Ohio
my
State
God,
didn't
cry
recruit you
more.
either.
Cry
Ohio
more.
State did not recruit you either. He makes me really upset.
What about Travis Hunter though? I mean, like the Heisman winner.
Okay, do you think he's gonna play both
okay.
sides?
No. He
No,
is
I don't
much
think
that's
he's
never
a
happened.
wide
Yeah.
receiver.
Full
full
okay.
wide receiver.
I think
Where do you
Did
think-
you watch the season?
Yes, I did watch the season. What do you
He's a
think?
much better corner than he is wide receiver.
Okay, well, I'm not an NFL GM, so that's their decision of what they want to do.
I'd put Luther Burden over Travis Hunter. I'd put Emeka Egbuka over Travis Hunter. As a wide receiver, I'd put Teteroya McMillan over Travis Hunter. And Nick Nash from San Jose State, I'm putting over Travis Hunter as a wide receiver.
I'm just thinking like Heisman, like
I
the
think-
Heisman.
I don't care if
Usually
he
the
was the
Heisman winner
Heisman.
goes up there no matter who they are.
Yeah, I don't think Travis Hunter is I think he's going to be kind of like what Deion Sanders did when he was in the league, play
Okay.
primarily corner, and then they'll move him in for like 1 or 2 plays. I think he's going to
Okay.
play primarily corner because he's that much better than.
I think he's gonna go where the
a wide
money
receiver.
goes, and there's
Agreed.
the wide receiver makes way more money than a lot of cornerbacks. Like that's just a higher paid
Yeah.
position.
Also, wide receiver, I feel like more publicity, and I feel like this whole Colorado, all of them, they just love
They
the
love
media.
a good NIL. They love a
Right.
good.
Like,
they love a good
I feel like you
partnership.
get way
They're
more
all for the
publicity,
money.
or maybe like somebody can make a song for him at a corner, like they did for Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I want to ask one last question. What is your favorite college football moment from this season?
Mine is probably like
Rattle 'em
biased,
off.
but it was probably Penn State first round, historic first round at home. I was there, so
That
I mean,
pick six was.
yeah. I mean, I was there,
Which
so that's
one?
kind
Yeah,
of like
which one?
biased.
All of them. Probably the Tony Rojas one. Probably my favorite memory is honestly the entire USC game.
Yeah.
Who I wanted to throw up during that game. That double pass was awesome. I just love that game so much.
I'm not going with a Penn State moment. I'm going with rivalry week. Georgia winning in 8 overtimes over Georgia Tech. I really thought
That was
Georgia Tech
great.
had it in the
That
bag.
was
Hayes King
insane.
played unreal during
I
that
know. I'm sitting there watching it in my apartment. And I'm like, Georgia Tech's really going to pull this off and knock Georgia out of
Yes.
the playoffs. I thought it was going to happen.
I was watching with my dad. I'm like, when is this going to end? Like,
I
this
know.
is just like
game. It was
infinity.
insane. It was insane.
Mine was Arizona State almost upsetting Texas.
Oh my
Like that,
God.
like little
Yes.
hope we
That
all
game
had.
was over, and then you look at the score, we're like, oh my God, this is gonna go in overtime.
I was on a
Exactly.
plane, and then when the game started, and then I landed when it was done. I'm like, how did like right before it finished? I was like, oh my God, they're gonna win.
Yeah.
And then they didn't.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Harlan, Ryan, Izzy, Gemma. We'll see you tomorrow.